Did Pontius Pilate record everything that Jesus did, his miracles, trial, execution, and resurrection, and submit it to Tiberius, the Roman emperor? Hello, dear viewers, please subscribe to our channel to get your daily dose of Bible stories. Does this report provide extraordinary information that isn't even included in the Bible? Another question: what does the Pilate stone, which was unearthed in 1961 AD at the Caesarea Maritima archaeological site, reveal about the execution of Jesus Christ? So, without further ado, let's get down to business. It is said that the Acts of Pilate are a document. The apocryphal Acts of Peter and Paul, purportedly composed in the 1st century, was the first book to include it. However, it was preserved as an older original document purportedly from Pilate and presented in its entirety. The Gospel of Nicodemus, an apocryphal book written in the 4th century, also included it. But is it true? Or is it true but with some Christian embellishment? Or is it completely fictional? Pupils' opinions differ. According to many ancient authors, Pilate really did submit such a report. This makes sense, considering that Pilate tries to explain himself before the emperor by mentioning that Herod Antipas was criticizing him to Caesar. One would wonder whether someone who was trying to fabricate a report would have included such a detail, given that it is a reasonable purpose to have produced a report. That seems very improbable. An early church father named Justin Martyr directed Roman Emperor Antoninus Pius to the report of Pilate in a letter he addressed to him in AD 138. These precise phrases, this precise report, this proves something crucial. Evidently, the report was well known in and around 150 AD, and the emperor might have seen it since it was stored in the imperial archives in Rome. And when he was killed, those who crucified him cast lots for his clothing and distributed them among themselves to make them more content. Justin Martyr, Letter to Caesar 12:1. Then Tertullian, another church father, related the story of how, according to Pilate's testimony, Tiberius Caesar even sought to have Jesus admitted to the Roman pantheon of deities. The truth of the matter is unknown at this time. No mention of it can be found in the Roman records. However, this does prove that the Acts of Pilate were highly esteemed by early Christians. It was highly esteemed by both Christians and those who opposed the cross. The letter written by Pontius Pilate and sent to Emperor Tiberius is an important historical document because it details the events leading up to the execution of Jesus Christ. The fact that in 311 AD Emperor Maximian attempted to discredit Christianity by arranging up a fake rendition of these events highlights their importance. The initial Acts of Pilate had a great influence on the empire, as this deceptive strategy reveals. We want to shed light on this watershed event in history by breaking this text down into episodes, evaluating Pilate's remarks, and offering analysis. If you want to be a part of this adventure and make sure you don't miss one episode, subscribe to our series. First, we have Pontius Pilate welcoming Emperor Tiberius in the first words of his letter to the emperor. I guess it's no surprise that recent events in my province have the potential to alter our nation's fate. So, I figured I'd fill you in on the specifics as they've unfolded. The gods don't appear to be as kind as they once were. What a day it was when I succeeded Valerius Gratus as governor of Judea. I am nearly ready to declare it cursed. I thought Jerusalem was the most difficult city to manage out of all the ones I had captured. I briefly lived in fear of an uprising because the people were so unruly. I had just one centurion and a small number of men to put an end to it. The Syrian prefect told me he hardly had enough soldiers to protect his own area when I asked for reinforcements. We risk losing our honorable empire if we give in to our natural desire for conquest and try to expand it beyond what we can defend. The remarks said by Pontius Pilate were those. Think about what this text means for a moment. A shocking surprise is hinted at in Pilate's message to Caesar. Within his cohort, which usually numbered no more than 100 men, stood a single centurion responsible for defending Jerusalem. Pontius Pilate's predecessor, Valerius Gratus, voiced his displeasure with Judean governance. He thought the tumultuous character of the Jerusalemites made the city very difficult to rule. This lays the groundwork for Pilate to describe the dire circumstances he took over later on. The inadequate military resources for preserving order in Jerusalem are shown in Pilate's report. With only one centurion and a small number of men at his disposal, he faced the possibility of turmoil in the city. Because of this manpower shortfall, Roman rule over the area is tenuous at best and difficult to suppress in the event of an uprising. There is a combination of historical analysis, speculation, and factual information in the material you supplied. No academic community has come to a unanimous conclusion about the reliability or veracity of the Acts of Pilate or its contents. Examining historical events requires a critical mindset and the ability to see things from many angles. The greater background of imperial overextension is also hinted to in the paper. The unsustainable growth of the empire beyond its defense capabilities is a source of worry for Pilate. The stress on Roman resources and its possible effects on the stability of the empire are hinted to by this. Concerns voiced by the Pilate on the lack of military resources and the potential fallout from overextension set the stage for what is to come later in the story. The way Pilate handles Jesus' trial and crucifixion, among other decisions, is certainly influenced by these considerations. We shall see how Pilate's decision to have Jesus crucified was influenced by this lack of soldiers as we go further into the book. Let us return to what Pilate said now. I paid special attention to one rumor among the many that reached my ears. It was stated that a young man had come to Galilee to teach a new law in the name of the gods who had sent him, along with a magnificent unction. My original concerns about his plot to incite the populace to rebel against the Romans were quickly allayed. Jesus of Nazareth seemed more sympathetic with the Romans than the Jewish people when he spoke. As I walked by the silo site one day, I saw a young guy embracing the crowd from behind a tree, speaking to them in a composed manner. Someone informed me it was Jesus. Given how drastically different he was from his audience, I could have guessed this. His look took on a heavenly quality due to his beard and golden hair. It seemed like he was in his 30s. I have never before seen a face that was more kind or peaceful. He stands in stark contrast to his audience, who all had sunburned complexions and black beards. This is the only historical account of Jesus' arrival, therefore I think it's important that we address it as well. His beard and golden hair are what really pique my curiosity. Including this information makes one wonder whether it is genuine or not. Does Jesus really have lighter hair and beard than his contemporaries, or was it an embellishment created by later scribes reproducing the document? Whoever copied this paper throughout the years probably added this on, but we have no idea. I find it really interesting. Return to Pilate now. Not wanting to be an annoyance, I kept walking while signaling to my secretary to come over and listen. Manlius was the name of my secretary. The conspirator who waited for Catalina in Atia was his grandpa, and he was his great-grandson. Living in Judea for a long time, Manlius was fluent in Hebrew. He earned my trust and was completely committed to me. Upon reaching the praetorium, I was greeted by Manlius, who informed me of the words that Jesus had said at Silo. There is nothing in the pedagogy or the writings of philosophers that comes close to matching the wisdom contained in Jesus' sayings. Jesus told one of the many disobedient Jews in Jerusalem, "Render unto Caesar the things which belong to Caesar, and unto God the things that are God's." The question of whether it was right to pay tribute to Caesar had come up among them. I gave the Nazarene a great deal of freedom since this phrase is wise. I could have had him imprisoned and sent to Pontius, but it would have gone against the Roman tradition of justice. He was neither a rebel or seditious individual. Unbeknownst to him, I offered him my protection. He could do as he pleased, speak his mind, gather his followers, and address them all without interference from the praetorian. The wealthy and powerful Jews were the ones who were angered by Jesus' unrestricted freedom, not the poor. I believe that Jesus' harsh treatment of the latter was a political justification for his decision not to limit the Nazarenes' freedom. The Pharisees and scribes would hear him declare, "You are a race of vipers, you resemble painted sepulchres." When the publican was being arrogant with his alms, he would mock him and say, "The mite of the poor widow is more precious in the sight of God." At the praetorium, fresh charges of Jesus' insolence were leveled every day. Some bad things were said to happen to him, I was told. Jerusalem had stoned so-called prophets before, and if the praetorium would not do what was right, Caesar would be asked to intervene. Nevertheless, the Senate gave its blessing to my actions, and I was assured of reinforcements after the end of the Parthian War. I decided to take a step that would restore peace to the city without making the praetorium seem weak because I lacked the strength to put down a rebellion. This suggests that Pilate was hesitant to crucify Jesus, choosing to release him instead in order to calm the political turmoil and forestall any possible rebellions at that period. What does the examination of items related with Pilate indicate about Jesus' death? Let's dive into them now. In what ways does the Pilate stone attest to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ? Near Israel's Caesarea Maritima, the ancient relic known as the Pilate stone, also called the Pilate inscription, was found in 1961. An important archaeological find, this dedicatory inscription on a limestone block confirms the reality of Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea described in the New Testament stories of Jesus' trial and execution. To the divine ostie, this Tiberium Pontius Pilate perfectus ud. It says on the Pilate stone, this Tiberium Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea, is dedicated to the divine ostie, according to the translation. Located on Israel's Mediterranean coast lies Caesarea Maritima. As a major Roman administrative hub, Caesarea Maritima was an important ancient city. At the location, the stone was discovered repurposed in a stairway that led to a theater. Archaeologists were able to positively identify it because of the Latin inscription that was etched into the limestone slab. We appreciate you sticking around this far, and we want to know your thoughts on the validity of Pilate's conduct. Make sure you tune in. Good luck.